Samanita. One new student joined, so I need to introduce him. Aditya, can you hear me? Okay, Aditya, can you hear me? Yes, no, maybe. I think he's facing some issues. Okay, we'll start. Okay, so the very first thing is that now this is clear, right? Fiscal deficit, total expenditure minus total receipt. In case anything is missing, either total expenditure or total receipt, that in that case fiscal deficit will be equals to borrowings. Okay, and next is revenue deficit, which is total revenue expenditure minus total revenue receipt. How much you are spending and how much you are receiving. Then revenue deficit. Aditya, can you hear me?
Yes, teacher.
Okay. Good evening, Aditya. How are you?
I'm fine, teacher.
Yeah. Okay. So Aditya, basically today we will be doing the numerical portion. Okay. So you have to make the running notes along with it. Okay.
Okay, teacher.
Yeah. So the very first, basically there are three formula which you have to learn. Okay. It's for everyone. Fiscal deficit. The very first thing is fiscal deficit. The formula is total expenditure minus total receipt. As I told you, there are only two components. What you are spending and what you are receiving. Okay. Receipt is always the receiving part and borrowings which we take from someone else. So the very first formula is this. Okay. Fiscal deficit equals to total expenditure minus total receipt excluding borrowing. Okay. Now this is the expended one. Total expenditure include two things, revenue expenditure and capital expenditure, right? And total receipt also include two things, revenue receipt and the capital receipt. Okay. And here also you have to exclude borrowing. Okay. This is the very first formula. But one thing which you have to keep in mind, in case total expenditure is not given or total receipt is not given, in that case, your fiscal deficit will be equals to the borrowings. Okay, in that case, you don't have to search anything. Directly, you will be writing fiscal deficit equals to borrowing. For example, revenue expenditure is given, but capital expenditure is not given, and other things are given. That means total expenditure is not given because total expenditure is made up of two parts, revenue and the capital. In that case, if anything is missing, either expenditure or total receipt, you will consider this. Fiscal deficit equals to borrowing. Whatever the value of borrowing is given, you will automatically write it down. Clear? Sorry. This is for everyone. Clear? First formula?
Yes, teacher.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, good.
Yes, ma'am.
Aditya, getting it?
Yes, teacher.
Okay. Next one is revenue deficit. Okay, revenue deficit is basically total revenue expenditure. There are two components, receipt and expenditure. So formula will be like that only. Revenue deficit is total revenue expenditure, how much you are spending, and total revenue receipts, how much you are receiving. Okay. So basically these are two types. And next is primary deficit. Primary deficit is fiscal deficit minus interest payment. Now what is interest payment? For example, you took loan from someone. Okay. In that case, you have to pay interest, right? For example, you took loan of 100 rupees. and every month you are paying the loan and you are paying interest over it, like that. Okay, so that is the interest payment. Okay, and somewhere in that primary deficit is basically fiscal and the interest payment. Okay, so somewhere if interest payment is zero, then primary deficit is equals to fiscal deficit. And in case you have to find fiscal deficit, then it will be, if you have to find fiscal deficit, then the formula will be primary deficit plus interest payment. Okay, you are a commerce student, so you know this basic calculation. That if you have to find the fiscal deficit, then this interest payment will be going here, and here the term is minus, so here it will be primary deficit plus interest payment. So when we calculate primary deficit, we don't include interest payment, we exclude it. But when we calculate fiscal deficit, we exclude borrowing, but we include interest payment. Clear? These three formulas, everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Yes,
so
Yes,
I'm
teacher.
just giving you 2 minutes. Those who have not written the formulas, if you want to write it again, just write it quickly. Then we'll start with the questions. Giving you 2 minutes. I hope it's done. Everyone?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Yes, teacher.
Aditya done?
Yes, teacher.
Now, just remember these formulas, okay, and nothing else, okay. And I have already given you people a table where you know what is need, like what you are going to include in, revenue, expenditure, revenue, capital, revenue, receipt, all that. Okay, so just remember, you can refer to that one also. Okay, so the very first question is on your screen. In a government budget, the revenue deficit is rupees 35 crore. Okay, if the revenue receipt are 70 crore and capital expenditure is 120 crore, then how much revenue expenditure should be? Okay, so basically what you have to find, the revenue expenditure. Okay, so what will be the formula? Of course, you will be using this formula, right? So first you have to think about which formula you are going to use, because you have only three formulas. right? So what you have to find? You have to find revenue expenditure. Every time they won't be asking you revenue deficit. They can ask you revenue expenditure. They can ask you revenue receipt. They can ask you anything. But you have to remember where this where this revenue expenditure term is coming. So here you will simply put revenue deficit equals to revenue expenditure minus revenue receipt. And you know revenue deficit is 35 crore, revenue expenditure is this. Simply you will solve it out and the answer is here. So quickly everyone will solve it out. You won't be taking more time. Just don't write all like everything. Just write the values. Revenue deficit equals to 35 crore, revenue receipt 70 crore, capital receipt 120, and the revenue expenditure. Okay? Getting it?
Yes, teacher.
See, every time you won't be, see, just remember one thing. In exam hall, they'll be giving you 5 or 10 entries, but you don't have to include everything. See, the formula was revenue deficit equals to total revenue expenditure minus total revenue receipt, right? But over here, they have also given you this capital expenditure just to confuse you, right? But here in answer, we are not using capital expenditure because you know the formula. So it's of no use. So some entries you have to ignore and some entries you have to use. Okay. So basically you, what you did, you write RD equals to revenue expenditure minus revenue receipt, right? The formula which I told. So basically they have given you RD. So that means you have written 35 over here and equals to, you have to find revenue expenditure minus 70. So basically if you have to find this thing, then this thing will be going here. So 35 plus 70, this will be your RE and you will be calculating it 105 crore equals to RE. I hope this is the simplest one and you people are getting it. Yes or no? Aditya getting it and others?
Yes, teacher.
Adib, Heba, Kushi,
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, teacher.
Maryam,
Yes, ma'am.
Mohammed.
Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
good. Just quickly do this. Be very quick because I need to discuss 6 questions. So just don't write the entire question, just simply in 1 or 2 lines, just solve it, just for your idea. And this will be your practice session as well, like the practice set you will be having with you whenever you want to, complete your questions.
Done, ma'am.
Good. Others, be quick.
Done, ma'am.
Done, ma'am.
Okay. I'll just wait for 1 more minute. Okay. I think everyone is done now. Yes?
Yes, teacher.
Okay. Now moving to our second question. Okay. Question is interest requirement as per government budget during the year is 1400, like whatever the value is crores. Okay. So that means you have given the interest. You are like in exam, like the question is you given part, interest payment is given. If the total borrowing requirement of the government are estimated this, then how is the primary deficit? Now this formula you are going to apply. Okay. So over here, interest payment is already given and borrowings is given. As I told you, when the now your fiscal deficit is not given and the formula for fiscal deficit is total expenditure and total receipt. So what I told you in the very starting, that in case total expenditure, total receipt is not given, then fiscal deficit is equals to borrowings, right? So the question was the simplest one. Here total borrowing requirement of the government is this, is equal to fiscal deficit. Okay, so simply you will write down the formula that primary deficit equals to fiscal deficit minus interest payment, and primary deficit is this. Interest payment is fiscal deficit is this, and interest payment is 140000. This simply the answer. Okay. So quickly write question number 2. In this case, if you are not aware that fiscal deficit is equals to borrowing, then you are not going to solve this. This is the one of the simplest question. But when you can solve it, or when you know that yes, fiscal deficit is equals to borrowing in case total expenditure, the formula is not given. In case the entries for fiscal deficit is not given. Okay. So in question, you will be writing interest payment equals to this, and you will be writing borrowing equals to this. You have to find primary deficit. Just write your questions like this. First write interest payment equals to the value, then write borrowings equals to the value, and just write primary deficit equals to question mark, and then do the solution. Write the formula and solve. Okay, just don't write write the entire question. I hope this is the simplest one, but only thing which you have to keep in mind, borrowing equals to fiscal deficit. Clear?
Yes, teacher.
Yes, teacher.
Done, ma'am.
Done, ma'am.
None, teacher.
Done, ma'am.
Okay. Good. I hope everyone is getting it right. The numerical portion. Don't feel like that they are the toughest one. They are the easiest one and the scoring one. You don't have to write anything. You just have to write the entries and solve it. The plus and subtraction should be there. Okay.
Okay, teacher.
Okay. Now the question number 3. In a government budget, the primary deficit is this and interest payment is this. You have to find fiscal deficit, the easiest one. Again, the same formula. Primary deficit, fiscal minus interest. Over here, primary deficit is given and interest payment is given. You have to find the fiscal deficit. I hope everyone can do this, the easiest one, but only thing is that how you will be solving it. You'll be writing formula like primary deficit equals to fiscal deficit minus interest payment. Over here, entry is given of this, and this you have to find minus this one. So this will be here, like it will be interest payment plus sorry. It will be primary deficit plus interest payment and equals to fiscal deficit, the easiest one. Okay, so everyone quickly again the question, primary deficit this you have to find fiscal.
Done, ma'am.
Done, ma'am.
Done, ma'am.
Okay. Now question number 4. Okay. As per government budget, the interest payment is this, which is 40% of the primary deficit. Calculate the fiscal deficit. This one is a little bit tricky and the higher level. Okay. Now over here, they haven't given you for like exact value. They have given you 40% of primary deficit. Okay. And then you have to, then you have to find the interest payment. The fiscal deficit. Okay. So over here, what they have given you, they haven't given you this. They have only given you that 40% of primary deficit. Okay. So basically, what is your interest payment? Interest payment is 40% of your primary deficit. Okay. So what will be? It will be like 40% of this. Okay, 10,000 crore. Okay. So how you will be writing it? 40 upon. It will be like 40% of 10,000 crore. Okay. So then it will be 40 upon 100 multiplied by 10,000. Okay. So somewhere you will be solving it. It will be 40% of X. Okay. But right. So sorry. 40% of PD, fiscal deficit, so primary deficit, this is X. So basically it is 40 upon 100 multiplied by X. Okay. Then if you will solve it, it will be 0.40X. Okay. Because right now primary deficit is not given. So it is only mentioned 40% of this. Okay. So that's why you solve it like this, 40 upon 100. This one we have done in money creation part, right? This 40% off and all that. So 40 upon 100 multiplied by PD. I'm just explaining again. Just a This question is very much, a tricky one, but there are high chances you can get this type of question because, of course, they won't be making your paper easy, right? So, just a minute. Now, the question was, they have given you interest payment, but they told you this interest payment is equals to 40% of the primary deficit. So, you don't know what is primary deficit. So, you assume that primary deficit equals to X. Okay. So, now 40% of primary deficit. So, that means 40% of X. Okay. So how you solve it? You said 40 and this percentage means upon 100 and this off means multiply and your PD was X. I'm just circling it out because they are looking similar. Okay. So 100 percentage means upon 100, off means multiply and PD is X. Now you will solve it. 0 and 0 cancel and you will solve it. It will be 0.4 multiplied by X. So somehow the answer will be 0.4 X. Okay. So the answer is here that your primary deficit is basically X and 10, it is 1000 crore. It is this. Okay. Now basically what was this? This was your interest payment. Okay. So this will be like your interest payment will be written over here like that. And then you will be solving it. It will be going over here. Okay. And then you will be solving it. It will be going here and the answer will be 25,000 crore. Getting it, everyone? You got it?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Everyone. See, I'm just explaining it again. I know it is a little bit confusing one, but don't worry. Just whatever is given in your question, just follow it blindly. Okay? The question was, as per government budget, the interest payment are estimated this. This is your interest payment. But this interest payment is equals to 40% of your primary deficit. So basically, your interest payment is equals to 40% of your primary deficit. Okay. Your interest payment is 10,000 crore. Okay. And we solved it. 40% of PD was 0.40x. Okay. This was it. Now you have to find the value of this x. So what you will be doing? This is in multiplication. This here it will be going. It will be a division. So when you will be solving it, the answer will be 25,000 crore and this will be your x. Okay, this will be your x. Okay, which is 40% of your primary deficit. That means this is your primary deficit. Everyone getting it? Yes or no? Just don't feel like, oh my god, others are getting it. If I'll say no, then it will be something a blunder. No. If you're not getting it, I am here to explain it again because in exam hall, when this question will be there, I don't want any one of you to feel like you are confused. You should be confident. By getting the question like this, you should be like, okay, I'll be doing it. So just let me know. Everyone, this much is clear. First thing, you have to find out the 40% of PD. Once you are done, then you have to put it like IP is equals to 40% of PD. That means 0.40x. Then you have to find the value of this x because you have assumed your primary deficit as x. Then the value of x is this. Now you have your interest payment and you have your primary deficit with you. Simply you will be putting the values in the formula and you will be getting the answer. Everyone, yes, no, maybe. Not getting it, just let me know, ma'am. Please explain it again. I'm doing that.
It's clear, teacher.
Okay. Others?
Yeah, ma'am.
It's clear, ma'am.
Okay.
Clear.
Okay.
Clear.
Good. Okay. Then you are smart enough. Very good. And don't feel, and never feel, in my class, you don't need to feel like, oh my God, others are saying, yes, ma'am, we are getting it. If we will see, we will say that, oh, ma'am, we didn't get it. And we'll feel like, oh my God, it's a blunder. No. I feel happy when you ask questions. And I feel like, okay, at least you are trying. You are giving your best. Okay. So everyone, this question is very much important. Just quickly solve it. Like, quickly do it.
Done, teacher.
Done, ma'am.
Done, ma'am.
So everyone is done, I hope. We'll just wait for one more minute. Okay, now I think everyone is done. Okay. Okay. Now from the given table, you find the following. First, you have to find the fiscal deficit. Then you have to find the primary deficit. So quickly, you will revise this. Fiscal deficit is total expenditure, total receipt, and primary deficit is this. Okay. So now here, revenue expenditure is given. It is like up and down. Just manage it. Okay. Revenue expenditure is this, and borrowing is this. Revenue receipt is this, and interest payments is 25% of revenue. Okay. So first of all, what you have to find? You have to find the revenue, fiscal deficit. Okay. But over here, just remember one thing. This is a like You won't be getting the straightforward questions every time. Over here, you know, revenue deficit is basically revenue expenditure minus revenue deficit. Why you need this revenue expenditure? Because when you will be solving the questions, you will be needing it. Okay. So revenue deficit, first of all, you took it out. This was done. Then revenue deficit, it was simply the answer was here. Then you know that interest payment. Why? Can anyone tell me why I find like why I did this? Like why revenue deficit? Anyone? There is no need. I have to find only these things, and in this and this, there is in this formula there is no requirement of revenue deficit. But why I am doing this? Anyone? Anyone want to try? Maybe you can wrong. You can be wrong or right. See, this is the formula of fiscal deficit. There is no need of revenue deficit, and similarly with primary deficit, there is no need. But why I am solving the revenue deficit? Sorry, revenue deficit. Yeah. Nobody? Okay, not an issue. I'll just say. See, over here, it is mentioned that interest payment is 25% of revenue deficit. So, until and unless you will not find revenue deficit, how will you find out 25% of it? Right? So, that's why revenue deficit, revenue expenditure minus revenue receipt. This is, and then 20% of revenue deficit. Same question, 20% of your revenue deficit. So, 20 upon 100 multiply by this 20,000 crores. 0 to 0. The answer is basically, you will be solving it. 25%. It is like this. Just for this. Okay, something like that. Clear, everyone? Getting it?
Yes, teacher.
Everyone is getting it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So the answer is, and then you will be solving it. Yeah. Then you will be solving it, and then these are the simple ones. Fiscal deficit equals to borrowing, right? Over here it is written because total receipt and everything, nothing is given. That's why your fiscal deficit is equals to borrowing, and primary deficit, fiscal deficit you know, and interest payment you have already taken it out. So here the answer is. Everyone got the point?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, teacher.
Surely?
Yes.
Okay, good. Just solve it. So why I have taken this revenue deficit now it's clear, right? Because it's mentioned 25. Just don't write it like this. Okay, this is like up and down. So just it's like this is first one, this is second one, this is revenue, and this is this. Okay, just write accordingly. Just draw the state. Just a minute. I'll just
Done, teacher.
Done, ma'am.
Done, ma'am.
Done, ma'am.
Okay, I'll just wait 1 more minute, then we'll start. Please.
Done, ma'am.
Okay, I think everyone is done. Okay, now moving to the last question, which is of course a lengthy one. So from the given detail, you have to find capital expenditure, total expenditure, and interest payment. Okay, so you people know the first formula, total expenditure is written. That means this formula is going to use. Okay, and capital expenditure is written. That means fiscal deficit formula is going to be used over here. Okay, so now entries are already given here. Like this is for first, this is for second, just manage it. Okay. So first thing is that we'll find the fiscal deficit. You know, fiscal deficit is revenue deficit plus capital. Revenue deficit is already given over here. Okay. Directly it is given revenue deficit. This is 9,000 rupees. Okay. In crores. And capital deficit, capital expenditure minus non-debt creating capitals. Okay. Non-debt capital creating capitals are basically you are excluding them. Okay. So you are subtracting it. Everyone getting it? What I'm telling you?
Yes, teacher.
This term is clear. Non-debt capital receipt is basically you are excluding it, right? You are deducting the whatever you are, the borrowing you have taken. So non-debt creating capital receipt. Okay. So simply you will put in the formula and you will get the answer. Fiscal deficit is already given. Revenue deficit is already given. Capital expenditure you have to find it out. Okay. And this non-debt is already given. So basically you will be putting this and you'll be getting the answer. Okay. Now, second, you have to find the total expenditure. So again, total expenditure, you have to find this. So for this, you need fiscal deficit and the total risk. Okay. So how you will be doing it? Total expenditure, revenue expenditure plus capital expenditure. Okay. They have changed the formula, putting all the values. You know what is this, what is this? Every value is given. Just find it out. Third one is interest payment. That means the formula which you will be using is this one: primary deficit, fiscal, and the interest payment. Okay. Now here, you know what is primary deficit. You have to find, and you know the fiscal deficit already. So very simple one, fiscal deficit minus interest payment. You will be putting it down and your answer is set. Everyone got the point? Just remember this is a very new term, new debt capital receipt. So this is basically you are excluding the borrowings. Okay? Getting it? This is non-debt capital receipt is your borrowing. You are excluding it. Okay? Got it?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, teacher.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I think everyone can zoom it from your end. Yes, no, maybe. Is there anyone who
Yes,
cannot
ma'am.
zoom?
Okay.
If not, then I'll just zoom it like this and then I'll just scroll it down. Okay. First write the question, then I'll help you to write the solution.
Ma'am, can you scroll it down? Done, ma'am.
Done, ma'am.
Okay, I'll just wait for one more minute.
Done, teacher.